Wine and Real Estate, the podcast where we drink wine, we have fun, and we learn about real estate investing. Real estate investing is so much more than just buying buildings. It's about building relationships, building your dreams, building your dream lifestyle, customizing your life. What do you want to do? What do you want to achieve? It's much more than money, it's more than getting rich. It's a different type of wealth. It's the wealth of time, the wealth of freedom. And now let's get to the wine and the real estate. Let's start this episode with some financing tips from our go-to mortgage broker, Streetwise Mortgages. Over to you, Dahlia.
Hi, I'm Dahlia, founder of Streetwise Mortgages, and on today's episode, I would like to share with you some of the key changes we're seeing in the lending space and environment ahead, and how you should plan and pivot. The first change is rates. We all know by now that the Bank of Canada is on a mission to combat inflation, and they are using the rate policy as a tool to do so. Prime rate has increased several times in 2022 and is expected to rise again by the end of 2022 by another 1 to 1.5%. The media is scaring everyone and making it sound like the sky is falling. Yes, the rates are rising, and yes, the prospects of a recession are on the rise. These are things you and I cannot control. What we can control, however, is how we navigate the waters ahead, and that's what's going to make us successful and get us to safety. It is important to remember that rate increases will stop once the Bank of Canada gets a handle on inflation. While no one has a crystal ball, indicators show that we are yet to see another 1.5 to 2% increase by the year 2023. Then we will stay there for a while, a period estimated to be at 24 to 36 months before things start to ease up again. So, what can you do here to navigate? Well, right now is the time to sit down with your mortgage advisor and assess the impact of rising rates on your cash flow and portfolio, and to discuss the best ways to navigate in your case. In the previous episode, I shared many tips around how you can create capacity within your budget to handle an increase in mortgage payments and whether or not to lock into a fixed rate. Please refer to an earlier episode. If you are a commercial real estate investor who is in the midst of a renovation or a construction and you're looking to refinance 12 to 18 months out, it is important that we assess the impact of rising rates on your future equity takeout. Rising rates for both the Government of Canada bonds and the Canadian mortgage bonds will have a direct impact on the debt coverage for your property, and therefore the loan amount the property qualifies for. Do not wait until the time comes to discover that you cannot take out the equity you initially planned for, or that you are running into a shortage that you cannot pay off existing liens on the property. The second change is tightening mortgage qualifications. As the rates continue to rise, the qualification bar the residential lenders use to approve you for a mortgage will also continue to rise. Because under the stress test rules, the lenders will qualify the loan request at the higher of the Bank of Canada rate, which is 5.25, and the mortgage rate you are being approved for plus 2%. This means qualifying for less than what you wish for, or shifting your deal from an A lender to a B lender, or from a B lender to a private lender. If you have equity in your properties, I highly recommend that you line up that equity now through secured line of credits while the property values are still holding up. And while the qualification bar is still manageable, do not wait to line up equity when you need it. Do it when you do not need it and have it in your back pocket. After all, lines of credits do not cost you anything per month. If your renewals are 6 months out, do not wait. Take the time now to revisit your options as well as the equity in the property and the terms available to you today versus 6 months out. And finally, take time to clean house. so you can still qualify in the future if you're looking to continue to grow your portfolio. By cleaning house, I mean getting rid of any expensive debts or private mortgages that are standing in the way of future approvals. Lastly, values are starting to soften in some markets. I suggest lining up equity through lines of credit because opportunities will come your way in the months ahead that you would want to jump on, and having funds in your back pocket will give you power. If you are an investor who is in the midst of doing a BRRRR strategy, which is a buy, renovate, refinance, rent, adjust your expectations in regards to the values on exit and revisit the refinancing options and numbers with your mortgage advisor to ensure you are well positioned to exit the deal. If you have private money on one or more of your properties right now and you have taken a high leverage position to purchase the property with the intention to renovate it to increase the value, it is best to exit the expensive money now and while the values are relatively holding up. Again, planning is key heading into this new cycle. If you are concerned about the environment ahead and need guidance on how to ride the wave and position your finances to ease up any cash flow pressures or to jump on the real estate opportunities that will come your way, contact our team at info@streetwisemortgages.com for a complimentary planning session. We will help you move forward with clarity and confidence. Cheers to your success.
Hello, everyone. So welcome to Wine and Real Estate. And I'm excited today to interview Michael, so the Armchair Real Estate Millionaire. I'm really excited to hear more about that. I love being lazy. So, and I heard something about Michael drinking something a bit funny. So let's start with that. Let's have a good laugh. Michael, welcome. And please tell us about your drink.
Yeah, so thank you very much for having me, Francois. I'm looking forward to having a good conversation. Much like you, I've got a couple of meetings back to back, but I felt an obligation for the Wine and Real Estate podcast that I drink something. Normally, I'm a Cabernet Sauvignon drinker, so a little bit of red wine. But for now, I'm drinking Ocean Spray, cran raspberry, low-calorie drink right now is what I'm drinking right now. So.
I was going to say your wine looks like a really strange color. So if you're a wine connoisseur, it's usually a lot about color. And
that's right.
Like, this does not look healthy. Maybe it's diluted or a rosé of some kind.
Yes, and so this was the best I could do on such an because I've got my Cab Sav here, and maybe I'll get into that later on this evening. But for now, I'm not drinking any wine. But I felt an obligation to put everything in a wine glass for you.
Drink something. Perfect. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. So I'd love to hear more about your story, Michael. This sounds really interesting, being an armchair real estate millionaire. It sounds just amazing. And a lot of people think it's a lot of work, and it can be as well if you're not set up properly. But I'm sure you have some insights to share with our audience.
Yeah, thanks for asking. Absolutely. The first thing I always point out to anyone who's considering investing in real estate is you are forming a business. You are still taking responsibility of your business. And if you don't treat it like a business, then you have a chance of not having the level of success that you should have. The only difference is that if you are a successful buy and hold real estate investor, this is not a full-time gig. This is it can be something as simple as a side hustle, where you can invest in owning as little as 2 or 3 properties. And those few properties, if done correctly, could have a real difference in your lifestyle and could put you into a level of success that allows you to either retire earlier. It could allow you to pay for your children's education or helping them with the down payment later in life. There's a lot of positive things that can happen with this part-time job that'll in some cases take as little as 2 to 5 hours a month. Can make a real difference in your life.
No, I love it. 2 to 5 hours. That's very manageable. So I coach people on investing in real estate, and that's a question I get a lot because some people, I want to quit my job or I hate what I do. But then there's the opposite. I love what I do. And I have several students that love what they do, but they don't have a retirement fund or plan. And they're like, I don't know, I'm a business owner. I don't know if I can do it all. So 2 to 5 hours a month is very achievable. That's like a Sunday afternoon once a month, and you review things. So how do you collapse it or condense it to 2 to 5 hours? That seems
Yeah.
very, you need systems and organization, of
Well,
course.
yes and no, but it all starts with I'm a big believer in the proper tenant profile,
Yeah.
and it all starts with I want to have a certain quality of tenant, and I create a bit of an avatar for that tenant. I'm looking for a couple, could be husband and wife, could be boyfriend girlfriend, it could be girlfriend girlfriend, it doesn't matter. But usually two incomes in one household, in one unit that they are. That they're both moving forward and with a long-term aspiration of one day buying a house. They've got a credit score probably in the high 600s or 700s. They're future homeowner mentality. They're not lifelong renters, and that's the
Yeah.
avatar of a tenant that I like to have. Now, with that mindset in place, I'm finding a quality property in a quality neighborhood, attracting quality tenants that allows you to earn quality long-term buy and hold profits. And that's the mindset that could be that part-time job that will make you a millionaire.
Peace of mind. I love it. So that's really smart. Like you said, future home buyers, so they tend to care about the place more because they're practicing at being homeowners, and yeah, they're just a different, usually professionals or a higher grade of tenants. So I like it. And that's very different because I hear a lot of people saying, oh, you go to the C neighborhoods and then you kind of bring it up. But you're also dealing with those professional tenants that will allow you to go to the landlord and tenant board a lot and have a lot of fun. I personally have left Ontario for investing because of that reason. I just don't want that because I have had some really good tenants, great profiles, but they're also professional tenants, lawyers, doctors.
Right.
They were still professional tenants.
But
Uh,
professional in a negative way. I still think
yeah,
a professional. Maybe I'm the
no,
optimist. I think a professional, like I want a professional tenant. And I've actually got a lawyer as a tenant, and they're professional jobs, but they're paying ample rent. They take care of their place, and the type of property that I also seek out is, in most cases, in a subdivision. In a suburban neighborhood outside of a main city with proper market fundamentals. It's a growing market. And this particular property is usually I'm a big fan of single family homes with legal additional dwelling units attached to them so that
yeah,
these two rental suites will generate enough rental income to support. I'm not dealing with large apartment buildings. I own a 9-plex. I've had a 6-plex. I've had secondary, tertiary market properties, and I've sold them all. The properties that are my buy and holds and the ones that I advocate and wrote the book about were for those people. Like the avatar of the buyer is exactly the person you described. They've got their full-time gig. They're making, maybe 6-figure income or darn close to it in their 9 to 5 job. They've got their principal residence in place. If they're being honest with themselves, 50 to 75% of their net worth has come from their primary residence appreciating over time. Now imagine if they could have 3 or 5 of them. These are the people that are thinking, oh, maybe I'll get a small part-time job on the side. Maybe I'll
uh,
drive Uber or I'll make scrunchies or something stupid like that. I'm telling you, real estate is something that can make a significant difference in your life, and it really doesn't take a lot of your time.
and I really believe in it. Just like you said, I saw your phone number earlier. We had some technical issues, 905 area code. So in there, we've seen massive appreciation in the 905 area. And that's like near Toronto for those tuning in from other provinces or countries. But anyway, the 905 area has seen crazy appreciation, which creates really big wealth. So whatever you owe, let's say a property you bought in Mississauga or somewhere, for 400,000 is worth a lot more right now, and you don't have that mortgage on it. So I don't believe in banking on appreciation, but if it's there, take it.
And
So
so I guess what I'm saying, Francois, is I don't want to bank on appreciation, but at the same time, if the market fundamentals are correct, and let me go
yeah,
into that really quickly. So I'm looking for a market, and let's choose Ottawa as an example, since you're in that neighborhood. Um, if a city has growing population, it has a growing GDP growth, it has growing job growth, and it has all these things going for it. That's going to lead to more people wanting to move to that community, which is going to lead to more rental pressure, which will over time lead to more housing pressure. It is not a matter of speculative at all.
No.
This is just natural that prices are going to go up when all the right fundamentals are in place. When you're investing in a Buffalo or a Northern Ontario or East Coast Canada, you might be able to find a property far cheaper, but there's no absolute guarantee of appreciation. Whereas you're investing in an Ottawa market, it's unless you believe that Ottawa is going to drop in population over the next 5 or 10 years, which I don't think anyone is logically thinking such. It's a very low risk investment.
No, you're right. And fundamentals, maybe for those that are newer, could you explain more? Like Ottawa, the city spent billions in infrastructure for the light rail. Mississauga, I know there's all kinds of projects going on. So what else are fundamentals? You mentioned job growth, population growth.
Yeah. And actually, for what it's worth, in my book, I have become an insider trader. And
Nice.
it's funny how we have the term insider trading in the equity market, where if you're an insider trader, we think of Martha Stewart and people that are actually going to prison for having insider knowledge and making decisions. In the real estate circle, it's actually encouraged, and there's a benefit to being an insider.
Yeah.
And the more you know, I've as have many of my colleagues, we go to town meetings and learn about new development projects that are happening. And in many cases, it could be revitalizing a downtown core. It could be improving, as you said, the transit system. It could be just simply a new 200 jobs going into an area because some employer is just moving in. But when it comes to the fundamentals, I look at the macro stuff, and I'm looking at the GDP and if it's growing or decreasing in that market, the population to see if it's growing or declining in that market. And then when you're having all of that, it's a natural progression that you're going to see prices going up as a result of that.
Yeah, and we have seen that in Ottawa was kind of a flat market for many, many years. And now the city's diversified so much that, yes, government is still very important, but not nearly as much as it used to be.
Yeah.
The west end of the city is all high tech.
Tech sector, absolutely. Yeah.
That's made
it's huge, man. And that's the thing that I like to tell people is that, yes, cash flow is important, but at the same time, if you gave me two choices and property one was in a tertiary market in a town that hasn't seen population increases in a generation, or is in a market where the values have actually dropped in value, yeah, I might get a much better cash flow in that property, but I can be pretty sure that in 10 or 20 years, that property is not going to be worth any more than it is now, unless there's something that's changing in that market. Or property B, that will be one that's in a market where I'm covering my expenses, maybe seeing a couple bucks in cash flow, but I've got tenants with 700 credit score that are in 3 to 5 years will be moving out, and then I could re-rent it at that time to probably a different tenant and collect even more rent. And I can tell you during all of COVID, for the 2 years, not just myself, but pretty much all of my clients using this strategy, we had virtually no tenants that didn't pay us rent during the entire 2 years of COVID.
No, that sounds great. And maybe you can tell us more about your book as well.
Yeah. So the book title is called Armchair Real Estate Millionaire. And I wrote it not for the person who's looking to buy their 10th, their 30th property. For any of us who have been in this game for a number of years, we've seen people on various podcasts talk about how they built a certain level of success. And, maybe even on this podcast, there's been some superstars in the industry, and we applaud their success. I'm really proud of, some superstars that have taken action that I've known for years and are now, killing it. Mandy Branham, for example, spoke in your group, and she's an all-star, but that's not necessarily repeatable for most of us. Most of us want to have our 9-to-5 job for at least a number of years still.
Yeah.
We don't necessarily want to turn it into a full-time gig. So this is to allow people to get their first, second, and maybe even third investment property. I use the term making it into the Triple Crown Club. And if you could get 3 properties in markets like in Ottawa or Canada and hold on to them and I'm not suggesting this is all you're going to do, but let's say you built.
That's already huge.
Yeah, you get 3 properties and can hold on to them for 25 years and you have no debt on them, and let's say you're 40 now and at 65, you'll have a multi-million-dollar net worth as a result. The way
Yeah.
that this strategy works is within 10 years, you'll be a millionaire through your real estate holdings. And three is certainly a very manageable number. Even one or two can make a huge difference in your life.
Yeah, I can. That's what I've heard many people say. Just one more property, a rental, can really change your life and set yourself up for success. And it's nice if there's a rainy day, illness, something, you can always sell one off. I know there's capital gains and a whole bunch of things, but there's still that money. It's like a life insurance for yourself and your family. And like you said earlier as well, so this is good for maybe investors that are not as hardcore as maybe I am and others. But
Yeah.
if you or Mandy Branham for sure, if you're a doctor or you're passionate about what you do for a living. I have one of my students, he does whitewater rescue, so he does rescuing on water. I'm not too sure, I don't get it, some of it's underwater and things.
Okay.
So which is cool, and that's his passion, and then he wants real estate to help him out as well. So it's great, but it's not going to become all consuming, 40 properties and so much more. So the 2 to 5 hours a month is manageable, and it's going to create a massive wealth for him and his family.
And to continue with that as well, is this is not a cop out for anyone. And as a matter of fact, the other thing I'm going to suggest to anybody who's maybe had some success early on and is now starting to think of other ventures is it's nice to be reminded of the market fundamentals and the fundamentals of doing real estate the right way. Because I think, Francois, both you and I could probably quickly name off a few people in our lifetime that we've met where they've made their $1 million plus in real estate, lost it all, and then rebuilt it. And everyone gives them applause and say, "Yay, way to bounce back." Well, I always ask the question, how'd you lose it? And usually it's getting into a much larger venture, a major construction project, development job, land deals, partnerships that go bad. Whereas then they say, well, how'd you make it the first time? In many cases, it was with single family homes with additional dwelling units. It's boring, it's repeatable, and if you're in a good quality market like the Ottawa Valley or the Greater Toronto Area, or there's a lot of other markets outside of that in North America that are some wonderful markets, you can make a huge difference in your life.
Yeah, no, I love that. That's really good, going back to the fundamentals, because I'm always talking about, people with land development and huge projects like 600 units and crazy
Crazy.
things, which is good, but it's also stressful. So this is a lot more relaxing, worst case, like those are liquid properties as well. They're easy to resell compared
Yeah.
to a 600 apartment complex. That's much harder to sell. You don't have as many buyers, but a house with a basement suite or I don't know, some sort of garden suite or a second dwelling unit is way easier to sell. And technically you could even move into it if you're really in a bind. You could live there too. So there's all kinds of exit strategies to those properties.
It's nice to know as a husband who's been now married for 15 years in my second marriage that if things happen to go poorly, I've got an exit strategy for myself.
You really do.
But also, and you actually nailed it. My potential buyer, if I ever do sell it, could be another young investor that's looking to live in one unit and rent out the other. It could be someone who's just going to have 2 units and renting it out. Or we're seeing more and more of this happening across all of North America. Multi-generational families are living in one unit and their kids or their parents are living up downstairs. And it's all, as to your point, there's so many different opportunities. And as someone who's been in the industry as long as I have, I've seen swings in values. And historically, the duplexes tend to not decrease in value as much as the single family homes are more bouncing. When the market back in 2008, 2009, the duplexes were hardly affected in value because the cash flow that was generated was enough to keep it going. I'm a huge fan. I'm a huge fan of these suckers. And and now I'm switching. I'm turning the switch a little bit, and my life is kind of altered where I'm not doing my 9-to-5 job as much as I used to be. I was a full-time realtor, and now I'm still doing a little bit of real estate, but that's not my passion as it used to be. And so now I'm focusing more on cash flow, and how I'm doing that is where before I was refinancing my properties, and every time I refinance it, I got a bunch of cash, use that as a down payment for another property. But now I'm no longer refinancing my properties, and I'm just increasing the cash flow over time. As a tenant moves out, I'm bringing in a tenant that's paying more. So where before my cash flow was minimal, now I'm generating between $5,000 and $8,000 a month in my properties. And then
Wow.
add to that my private mortgages that I'm loaning out and a few other ventures. And I'm getting residual money of between $15,000 and $22,000 every single month, just getting out of bed, or not even getting out of bed, and I'm still getting that. And it's life changing.
And that's how many years in the making, just to give people an idea of timeline, maybe.
The comment I tell everyone is it's a quote from Bill Gates. People tend to overestimate how much they can accomplish in 1 year, and they underestimate how much they can accomplish in 10. In my book, I talk about this, and in my introduction, I talk about this a lot. My goal was to buy one investment property a year for 10 straight years, and that's what I did. And so I now have a portfolio of 12 properties. I did own a couple more. I've sold a couple, ones that didn't meet my profile, ones that were not in the right location, didn't have the right tenant profile. Now I've got a portfolio of 12 properties that are all self-sustaining, adding money to my portfolio or to my monthly income, and are pretty freaking easy to manage. Like this storm that just happened obviously is an exception, so we're doing a little bit of work on some of our properties for that. But then another month will come by and we did sweet diddly and we just collected our rent, and all we had to do is cash it. So yeah, I because I've got a portfolio of my size, we estimate about 10 hours a month, but it's still 10 hours a month. It's not a lot.
That's not much, really. And I love it. You said one property a year. So some people I hear, it's like one property a month or a week or a quarter or some crazy number. But you did one a year, and you got 12 properties, and it went up and down and things, which is also very important to reassess your portfolio as you go along. Does it fit? Does it add to your life? That's wine and real estate. We're all about lifestyle. Does this fit into your life, or is this a nightmare that you have to manage constantly? And I've had some of those properties. They look great on cash flow, but total nightmare.
On paper.
Yeah, on paper, they're just yay. And then in reality, they're a disaster.
Yeah, I always tell people who are who've been in this game for not very long, and they see this crappy ass property in a terrible neighborhood, and it needs a ton of work, and it's for sale, but the numbers on paper, incidentally, was written by the listing agent's realtor, by the way.
Of course.
So amazingly enough, the stats are very pro seller, but these numbers are showing incredible cap rates and incredible financial numbers, and everything is magical. And you're thinking, oh my God, what a deal. But in my experience, a lot of these properties, there's a reason why they come on the market every 2 to 5 years, because there's a real issue in the management of it. Whereas my portfolio, they're buy and hold for life. And, could I get one tenant that causes trouble? All of a sudden,
absolutely,
the girlfriend breaks up with a boyfriend, and then they bring some loser. And I've had that happen once or twice, but for the most part, no, I'm getting people with credit scores that are, a generation ago, these people would be buying houses as soon as they get their 6-figure income. Nowadays, they need to save $50,000 to $100,000 for a down payment before they can buy a place. It is way more difficult to buy a house for a young person than it was back in those days. And they're great people. And I'm a pet lover, so I'm being pet friendly. I'm making my houses as pet friendly as I can. And so they're making this into their home. The houses in many cases are in better shape 2, 3, 4 years later than when we had them, simply because they've taken care of them. That's the kind of tenant profile I want to have. And it's possible.
Yeah, well, I remember when I was a tenant, and I did just that. I started doing a bit of landscaping, mulching the garden beds, and then trimming the hedge and stuff, because I'm like, I can't live with this okay maintenance. So
yeah.
And then the landlords would always thank me. I'm like, okay, now I need to buy a place.
Well, we had 2 tenants that actually went on the roofs in the last couple of days, bringing off branches because they thought it was causing damage to my house. Like I have a company that's going to go around to my houses, and like for those, for when we're releasing this, there was just a big storm here in Ontario and caused a lot of damage throughout the entire province. And we had some properties. We had a fence that got knocked over and some shingles that got knocked off a couple roofs, and then branches like crazy all left all over
Yeah.
the place. And yeah, the tenants are actually climbing the roof to take them down for us. That's a
Wow.
tenant profile I want to have.
Totally, I agree. So that's amazing. So Michael, thank you so much for sharing a little bit about your knowledge. I know you're a wealth of information, and I invite people to check out your book. So what's the title of your book?
Yeah, it's Armchair Real Estate Millionaire. And if you go .com, you can actually look me up, and that's how you can reach out to me at info@armchairrealestatemillionaire.com. The book is available on Amazon and Indigo for the written version, and I just released the audio
Oh,
book,
cool.
and it's available on Audible. And I'm really proud of it. I hired that's a conversation we can have another day, Francois. Is hiring a voice actor. I learned my limitations. I learned what I'm not great at. I could speak at a podcast, or you and I can go for a beer or a glass of wine and speak for hours on end. But doing a book reading is a very different skill set, and I learned I wasn't good at that. So I hired somebody who was fantastic, and I'm really proud of what came out of it. I was there MC or managing it and making sure it was done the right way and all that stuff. But yeah, it's I encourage somebody that's listening to a podcast to download some really good Audible books, and I think mine belongs in that category.
I love it. Again, words of wisdom. Know your limits. So if you're not a good narrator, hire one.
Yeah.
And it makes things better. Same with properties. If you're not good at managing them, get a property manager. There's so many things you can do to make your life easier, and just work with your strengths. If you're working on your weaknesses, you'll get better, but maybe 20% better from wherever you are. So it's been a pleasure, Michael. I'll have to have you on again in the future and talk about maybe what's next. Are you divesting some more? Are you getting more into other things, or is there a follow-up to your book? So let's stay in touch and see what else we can learn from you.
Absolutely. And yeah, and talking about what's the next goal in life, trying to sustain ongoing money and how to retire. Living your best life. And that's really what I'm learning that as I go right now. And yeah, if you ever wanted to talk about that, I'd love to share my journey along for that as well. So my months away in California will be fun to talk about.
Perfect. No, I love it. And maybe some wine next time.
I will have some real wine the next time, not the low calorie cranberry.
Perfect. Thank you. Take care.
Nice to meet you.
Bye. Hey there, listeners. We hope you enjoyed this latest episode of the Wine and Real Estate podcast.
Yes, absolutely. You can find us on Instagram. Our handle is wine_and_real estate. So wine and real estate. On Facebook, FL Homes Corp. And you can also find us on our YouTube channel.
Yes, and please make sure to give us a rating, 5 stars, or any comments. We'd love to hear from you. And we love suggestions as well. Cheers.
Yeah, chin chin.